Hello, everyone. This is the fortnightly backdrop design user experience meeting for Thursday, August 25th. This is our practice. We will go around the room and everyone give a brief introduction. If you like, say a few words about what you're working on or interested in. I'm Robert Lang, bug folder on the internet, coming to you from Altadena, California. Pass the baton over to Joseph.
Hi, I'm Joseph. I'm a programmer from Las Vegas, Nevada. And Jen.
Jen Lampton, joining from Oakland, California. Gogu.
Hi everyone, my name is Gogo, just Gogo on the internet. A designer, and I'm joining in from Nigeria.
I'll go next. I'm Tim Erickson. I am in Deerwood, Minnesota, St. Paul Tim, and we'll let it go to Martin.
Hi, I'm Martin. I'm in the United Kingdom, Yorkshire Pudding on the internet.
Okay, I think that's everybody, right? Yep. Let's looking at the agenda. So I know I had reached out to Gogo to talk about design issues, and he said he would come to the meeting today. The design, I'm a little always unsure if marketing design fits here or on the marketing outreach meeting. I think it can go either place. So I don't know if we should start with that. The other do we have any? The other logical thing is we have a feature freeze next week, and we would want to talk about any usability issues that we are trying to get into feature freeze as another obvious candidate for discussion today. Did anybody bring any specific issues for this meeting today that you want to talk about? No? Okay.
No, it's probably worth mentioning. I know Indigo has raised it for the dev meeting that the HTML5 date widget that Indigo has been working on is looking really good. It'd be really great if we can get that in. It's had a few of us testing it, but Indigo would like some core committer input to make sure that the approach is right.
Okay. Is the issue, Jen, I don't know if you've got the update on the hide. We have a backward compatibility issue that came up on the hide comment titles issue, which I think is more appropriate for the next meeting than this one. So we'll leave that for
I can
that.
look at it.
Sure. I was just thinking, is that a usability issue? But even to the extent it is, it's more of a the overall issue might be, but this is more of a technical issue. So let's save it for the next meeting when we have more core committers there. Hopefully, so should we go ahead and talk about the design stuff? So we last week's meeting we talked about the fact that we talked about trying to get the registration live as quickly as possible for the next backdrop live, and presumably start marketing it. And Gogo had did some designs for social media for the last backdrop live that we were still discussing at the end and didn't use much. I think I used them once or twice, but anyways, I'd like to repurpose and get that work. See if we can't use that work for promoting the next backdrop live. And since Gogo is here today, I'm suggesting we take a look at that. I think it would be helpful to see what he did. So I'm going to try and find it just in Zulip and share my screen. I think it was in the outreach stream. It would be back a ways now. Or do you remember Gogo where where you shared those files with us?
Yes, I did. I shared them on Zulip.
Yeah, but you know which stream.
Okay, I think I can quickly pull. I think it was on.
I think,
Let
was
me
it in
pull
the
it up.
event?
Yeah, events also.
Yeah,
Event stream.
That makes
Let me
sense.
pull it up quickly.
Then it'll be easier to find. if
event
it's there.
planning, maybe.
There, yeah, it is. Yep, okay, I'm gonna share my screen. So this is, I think these are the most, well, they're not even that far back. So if anybody wants to look on their own, just go do event planning. And it's really just a couple of posts back. And this is one of the more recent versions.
Open it up. Let me see.
Are those the same?
Okay, I think
Or are these the most recent ones?
these are the last ones I dropped.
Okay.
Let me open my Affinity.
Yeah, I think an earlier version had, that I was looking at, had the backdrop logo still up at the top. And we were having discussions about the size of it, but this works. So the first feedback, Go, is that we need to talk about how these work, right? Ideally, what we'd like is something that we can modify. That like anybody can open up the original file and modify and use. We don't want to have to like ask you or somebody to create each one, which
Okay.
means the background is fine as long as it's in a file that, you know, most of us can open and use. So I think that would be my biggest concern about this. I think the other question would be, we originally, I think you had the dragon and a picture of the host, or you know, the host. But very often we have topics, and we're not putting as much focus on the host, and we could change that. But I think I sort of said, you know, we may not always have a person of a picture, and then you replaced the person of the picture of the person with the dragon, and now we end up with two dragons. And I just wonder if we still need both of them, or anyways, those are sort of the two things that jump out at me first. Should the backdrop live have the date? It just has the month. Should probably also have the date, shouldn't it? Oh, we got that down below. Well, yeah, I don't know if anybody else has any feedback on these.
Yeah, I think it would be really great if we do come up with something that we can reuse. Like I would love to see it also available in like a HTML format where we could have like this as a block on backdropcms.org, or we can just go and like edit the text and hit save. So having like the background image as a separate asset could be good, or maybe even with like backdrop live on it, or you know, the visual elements that need to be distinct. And then we could even add like a special class to the block to style it to make it look like this ongoing. We can add the dragon and the different colors and stuff that way. But yeah, I think we also need it as a static asset that we can use in stuff like social media posts too. But I would also love to see it on our websites.
So the red background behind backdrop CMS. This is a title of a discussion, Drupal 7 to backdrop CMS. So I'm a little bit unsure of how that works, or what your intention was with that red background.
Okay, so I wanted to put a little focus on backdrop CMS.
Okay.
Yeah. A
So
little focus on it.
what if the title doesn't have backdrop in it, then there would be no red, just anytime backdrop was there?
I wouldn't say, you know, you have Drupal there, and then you have backdrop there. So I didn't want us to shift the focus to Drupal also. So
Sure.
I wanted the focus to be on backdrop. That was why I added that red background to it.
I think
And
my
then
point is that,
the other,
yeah,
the
my point is that
other,
the title is going to change all the time, right? So
Yes. Okay. So the thing is, we if we have backdrop on the topic, we can actually, if we have backdrop with Drupal on the topic, we can highlight backdrop to give more focus and more emphasis to backdrop. But if we are not having backdrop and then we're not having Drupal, or we're having each one, that's, let's say, only Drupal, then we can leave out the red background. Then if you're having just backdrop, you can also leave out the red background. But when we're having Drupal and then we're also having backdrop on the same topic, then the red background should be there to give more emphasis to the backdrop. That was just what I was thinking.
Okay.
And then also the visual assets, that's the background, is actually the backdrop logo. The triangle in the square was what I used to create that background.
Okay.
Yeah, it's looking more like 3D, but it was made from that triangle. Yes.
One thing to bear in mind is that white on red doesn't meet the contrast accessibility standards. There's not enough contrast, and I think similarly with the green on that background, there's probably not enough contrast to meet the actual the standard contrast requirements.
Okay. I'll just note that down. Thank you, Martin.
Okay. So again, what we're for us to make use of this, what we need then are files that we can edit, right? And so
Yes, that's reusability.
Yeah.
To easily modify it. So I wanted to, I think Martin mentioned that he uses Affinity the other time when he spoke, and then I wanted to suggest we use Figma. I wanted to suggest we use Figma because you can easily create a Figma account, and then if this is redone in Figma, anybody that has access to it can easily modify it also.
sure. I have a Figma account, so I'm fine with that.
Okay. So I'll just export it down to Figma so we can, or recreate it in Figma so we can have access to it.
I think we already have a backdrop community folder in Figma that has all of our website designs in it.
Assets.
Yeah, so that could be valuable too.
Okay.
I didn't know that.
Let me quickly drop my email so you can add me to it.
Okay, Tim, you're on the backdrop team, so you should have access to those.
Okay. In Figma.
And
So you
yeah,
can
in
send
Figma.
me. You can send me an invite. I just dropped
Okay.
mine.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that.
My Figma is open.
So do we want to reserve, how exclusive, if I'm doing social media for a different, like office hours or something else, would it be wrong to repurpose this for that? Or do we want to keep this unique? So for Backdrop Live, and then maybe we could talk Gogo into doing a more generic one, or
I think because the logo has like the red dot in live, we should reserve that for Backdrop Live related stuff.
Right.
But I do think we could have something similar for office hours that just didn't have that Backdrop Live header on it.
sure.
But that
Gogo-
definitely, I feel like it's a good brand for the live event to have the like red dot live, and I wouldn't want that to get confused.
I agree. I guess I'm thinking about everything else, right? Like if we just removed Backdrop Live and replaced it with office hours, would that be too similar to this? Or
I think you might want to sort of make it a bit more different with perhaps a different background, because
sure.
So
Yeah.
so that we have sort of a bit of a distinction between the different types of things.
Well, I'd like something that's sort of generic and flexible, but yes, I think the point I'm getting at is maybe it should be different than this, so that the backdrop live ones really
Could be the same layout, but just with a different background, and obviously missing the kind of the live bit. But
right.
Yeah.
Go. What do you think?
I think we've all made wonderful contributions. Well, the backdrop live should be a little bit distinct from the office hours, just to create that little bit of distinction.
Sure.
So, but the changes are just going to be very minimal, like very minimal changes. For office hours, I think the backdrop live with the red dot will just go, and just minimal changes.
Okay. Are you able to provide us an alternative mock-up then for other events?
I think I'll do that.
Okay, that would be great. I'm gonna quit sharing my screen. I think that the next steps on this are just to get the files that we can edit and use. Is that correct? Does anybody have any other feedback? Okay. Go. Since we have you here, is there anything else that you want to talk about that's design related?
Okay, you sent me a DM on Zulip. I think we should follow up on that discussion.
Sure.
All right.
Well, yeah, I had direct messaged Go to just ask him about following up with, my primary purpose was to get this, to talk about this artwork and to see if we could move it to the next step. And I think we've covered that today. I'd be happy to connect with you later and just talk about other design issues, or if you have anything else you want to talk about today, we can talk about them as a group now. I don't have anything else in particular. I don't think. Let me look. Yeah, I think that's it. So if nobody has anything on
Oh,
this.
I was muted.
Oh.
And I was... Okay, it's great to be back. I've been away for some time, but I'm glad I'm back here now.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, we're glad to have you. So Go that Martin. So because I think you're in a similar time zone as Europe, right? Time zone.
Yes, I think.
Yes.
I think yes. UK.
Martin has been doing office hours every week at a time that might be more convenient for you if you want to drop in on office hours.
Okay. Martin, probably you share the schedule with me.
Well, it's normally on Zulip, but it's 9:30 UTC at the moment. Whether we change it when daylight savings time, because we're trying to kind of fit around the people who it's sort of targeted at, so people in Europe and Australia. We're sort of targeting, so we might need to adjust it, because I think when UK goes back 1 hour, I think Australia goes forward an hour. So we might need to adjust it then, but we'll see.
Okay.
Yeah, I've noted the time down.
Very good. Okay. Well, then I think we're on to other, if there's no other design issues, we should talk about other usability issues. And if we don't, do we have any, I'm a little bit out of touch with what the hot issues are on the issue queue right now. But with the feature freeze coming up, is there anything? Martin just dropped off just because of the time. We don't have any, if nobody has any pressing usability issues, we could just end the meeting and wait till the dev meeting. Or we could, I suppose we could repurpose this and talk a little bit about Backdrop Live, but I actually don't know if, other than the design stuff, I think. Did you do anything yet, Jen, to get the registration live?
Registration should be open.
Okay. Thought I saw
registered.
something.
Yeah,
Okay.
I registered last week just to test it and it worked for me. So we should see if anyone else has any trouble.
Let's maybe post a note in Zulip to, before we advertise it on social media to have other people
Okay.
test it.
Sounds good. Also potentially outreach related, I did get contacted by John Keeley, the organizer of Bad Camp, asking if we wanted to do a Backdrop Summit. Their summits this year are half-day events, so it would be like Friday morning from 9 to noon or something, so 3 hours as opposed to a whole day. So I wrote back and asked, like, what does that mean? What are our options? Is there online access? How big is the venue? Like, just a bunch of questions. I don't have any answers yet, but I did say we were interested in having something happen at Bad Camp, but we needed to figure out how or what that would be. So yeah, I don't know what we're going to do in that time, but it is something we can sort of start thinking about.
There was a little discussion, I think, yesterday in office hours about topics. So the sessions submission for Bad Camp has been extended. It was scheduled to be this week on Monday. I think it's now next week, the 29th. So another 4 days. I submitted a sort of a case study that I thought might be a little bit generic. I was trying to think of something with some crossover appeal, Drupal and background. I think it was Justin asked if we should, or gee, it might have been Ryan. We had like 6 people in office hours yesterday, and somebody asked if we should be submitting like an intro to backdrop session. And I think, Jen, that's something you would normally do, but I think you're still unsure about. And I don't know if you want to be the one to do that.
I think I did submit. I did submit a session on Backdrop to Bad Camp already, but I don't remember which one it was. Let me see if I can find it. I think they used.
I was thinking about submitting a second one too, just looking for the choice. Joseph, I'm just going to pin you down because the only time we've met face to face was at Bad Camp. Is that anything that you're even considering this year? Or?
I don't know.
You haven't ruled it out though.
Session eyes.
Yeah, we haven't ruled it out. Although I don't know.
Yeah, that's
I
fine.
don't know if we're gonna have enough like spare money for a trip to California.
Yeah, I'm kind of unsure myself whether or not I can do it, but decided to go ahead and submit a session anyways. And then we'll see what happens.
So the session I submitted about Backdrop was specifically upgrading from Drupal 7.
Okay.
So if someone wanted to do intro, I think that would be good.
Okay. Anybody else have any ideas for things that you think would be really good session ideas at BATCamp. Thinking ahead towards DrupalCon, I wonder if we should, if we want to strategically submit things, if they should be things like upgrade, or should it be something like comparing the layout system in Backdrop to Drupal 7 or to Drupal.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting things like that where we could do sort of a closer comparison, like the media system and the way that, you know, it's simpler in Backdrop, but you can sort of do all the same things. That might be something that people would be really interested to see because it, you know, layouts are really different. Media is a little different, just like very different conceptually. Could be fun. I think it also might be good if we did something collaboratively, like if we got somebody to like represent Drupal, and that way it would be, you know, not us pointing at it and saying, this is what we think it does, but someone who's there to like represent Drupal being like, this is what I know it can do. And then we can say, this is what we know Backdrop can do. And the whole thing will be like really positive about both platforms. So yeah, that could be good. We also could do something that's less technical and more philosophical too. Like if we wanted to talk about like how to choose Backdrop versus Drupal, let's talk about the two projects and what it means for you as an organization if you adopt it, rather than like technical differences between what you get, which I think is something that it's really easy to point at the software and be like, look what you get. But like talking about how maintenance is different, the different options you have for that, how your development workflow could look like, what your front-end developers need to know. There's just a whole bunch of different requirements you have for one versus the other moving forward, and that could be really valuable to people who are still on the fence. You're muted, Tim.
Are you thinking that would also be kind of a joint thing?
It could be, yeah. And we could also, like, I don't know exactly what those questions would be, but it might be something where we could even involve someone representing WordPress too, and be like, what does it look like for WordPress when you need to do updates, and how does that experience compare to Backdrop versus Drupal? And I think it would be really neat if we could sort of position all three platforms as being like, they're all good. You just have to figure out which one is the right fit for you or for this project or whatever it is, and just have it be, you know, these are the tools that are available to you. And I don't know if we've seen a lot of that in Drupal in recent times, because everybody's very focused on, you're already on Drupal. And I think that it might be good for Drupal people to learn more about other, what has WordPress done in the last 5 years? I don't know. I'm sure somebody does.
Those kind of topics have always interested me too. I think I've seen them at DrupalCon, but not often.
I think that would be very interesting. Like, let me just cite an example from design space where you put softwares like Affinity against the softwares that have been there, like CorelDRAW and Illustrator. It brings up a lot of arguments, and then at the end of the day, you talk about the features, what they do differently, you talk about licensing, and yes, and the several benefits. For example, Affinity Designer made it very easy for designers, where even if you are a beginner, even if you are somebody that is very advanced in design, you can actually own the software, unlike what other tools you get in the market like Illustrator are doing. So I think if you put together that, if you pull through what you're saying, put in WordPress, Drupal, and then Backdrop, and then you talk about their features and all, I think it's going to make a lot of, I think for some people that are on the fence, it's going to give them reasons why they should choose Backdrop. I think it would make it easier for them.
I raised this issue about DrupalCon partly because Bandcamp could be a chance to practice or to try out some ideas. Bandcamp, I think, is putting a premium on uniqueness, like new topics, whereas I think DrupalCon normally rewards sessions that have been done before, just because they're more likely to be, well prepared and polished. So if we did submit something to DrupalCon and we had done it at Bandcamp, that would be to our advantage. At least based on my experience having been on the committee one year, which was that sort of the speaker experiences and whether it's been done before is a positive. So, but it sounds like, is there anybody else that would even consider, well, certainly if anybody's watching this and you're considering submitting something to Backdrop, please, do take our ideas, use them, or ping us and we can talk about it. I'll probably submit one more and I'm still not deciding which one I want to do. I like these comparison ideas. The other idea I had was, and it follows a little bit, Irina got this, was excited about the whole providing a soft landing approach and was talking about using Bandcamp as maybe to do a sprint on the upgrade process. And I was thinking, with something like providing a soft landing to Drupal 7 site owners be a good topic for Bandcamp. John, any thoughts on whether or not that would be a constructive way to go or better?
Yeah, I don't know what that would look like. Like if I know she had like a bunch of tasks she really wanted to work on, so it was really more geared towards a sprint and like how do we actually make it a softer landing. But it's another, like if we had a bunch of people who are coming from Drupal 7 who had like 4 concerns, like we could say like, what are your concerns? And we could ask them and collect that information at a session, could be valuable. But yeah, I don't know other ways we might be able to incorporate that message.
I'm thinking that session would have to be a little bit more interactive and would be a little bit more of a core conversation, which is kind of what you just said, that it would be about how do we, maybe it would start out by planting a few seeds or ideas, but it would ultimately be about how do we, I want to say, how do we collaborate to make the options for Drupal 7 sites better? What can Backdrop do to be a better solution, and maybe the same thing for what they might do. At Bandcamp, I think that even-handed, we don't have to be as balanced as we would maybe at DrupalCon. Anyways, I don't know if we have to be balanced in either place. Okay. Well, I'll keep thinking about it. If anybody has any other ideas, feel free to drop them in Zula. Like if you have topic ideas or if you think you might be willing to or able to submit a session. Okay, I've got nothing else. You know what? Since we're repurposing this meeting a little bit, why don't we talk, and if everybody's okay with this, why don't we talk a little bit about CiviCRM, because there's a lot of progress happening there. And we have Robert here. Robert, do you want to give us an update on CiviCRM?
Yeah. So let's see. So I've got it set up on, it's on beta, and user accounts have been turned into CiviCRM contacts, and user account fields are now in CiviCRM. And a little bit of formatting. In fact, why don't I bring up a page and show you? Because there are a couple of open issues. We need to configure email, outgoing email, and also configure our SendGrid installation to send notifications back to Civi so that bounce messages are properly recorded. And we should probably set up some interest groups so that we have something for people to sign up for. So let me show my screen. So here is the beta site, and I look at my profile. You'll see There's a new section here, which is these are the former user fields for that are in Civi. There's a link to edit your Civi CRM fields, and if I go to that, you'll see now we're on the user edit page, and it has two subtabs. The edit subtab is the original user page that edits all the fields that we used to see. And then there's a separate tab that edits Civi CRM fields. And we can create more subtabs to add additional fields. For example, we just put in as an example here. Come on. This map is being slow. Please. It's really very slow. Maybe map is stopped. Don't, okay, there we go. Go to the profile. And so here, we've got a third subtab, interests. It's just what I called it, which would have the various groups that people could sign up for. And this is my private, my local site. I said, well, we have a backdrop live. We'd expose the no bulk emails opt-out so that people can opt out of all emails, but expose the settings so that they can come back if they didn't really mean to opt out of all emails. And then on the user page, those interests show up as a different section. So here's a name and address, and then the next group is interests.
Are you seeing additional information here because you're an admin? Like, would a normal person see, for example, like an email address on someone else's page?
I think not. I haven't double checked that, but I think it's set up that you only see this extra information if it's you.
Your own page, yeah.
You don't see other people's stuff, because yes, you see where I know where you're headed, and yeah, that's a concern. I think that's the case. And it's set by permissions.
That's great.
I
wonder if this may be not a topic for right now, but we do have like the checkbox on the profile form right now that allows people to opt into security updates. It seems like that should be something we're managing through Civi. We just didn't have any other way to do it yet. But trying to figure out how to migrate all the existing data in and get the website to send the email could be tricky. Follow-up issue.
Oh. Yes. Let's see, security update. I mean, do we compose a security update and then
it's every time we publish a security advisory on the website, every time that node is created or published for the first time, then it automatically sends an email to everyone who's checked that box. So short term, what we could do is just move the box right from user profile field to a Civi CRM field, and then check the Civi CRM field instead of the profile field, and that would probably be the easiest thing. But long term, it would be great if Civi could send that email instead of the backdrop website. And then that way we could take advantage of all of the other stuff that we end up setting up for Civi, like the email templates or SMTP or whatever it is we end up adding in the future. But yeah, I think this is great for, I don't think we need to do any of that before we launch this. I was just sort of thinking out loud as I was looking at the form.
Yeah.
So first of all, I went to bug folders page on the beta site. As you know, unauthenticated, and I did not see
Great
any name or address. when I went,
Great.
I do see it logged in as an admin when I go to his page, but I'm logged in like as a super admin. So
Okay.
um, Jen, right before you came on, we were talking about migrating the email list, Send in Blue, and
Yeah.
how are we going to do that for people that don't have accounts? Will it have to create an account for everybody?
So we can create a Civi CRM profile record without them having an account on backdropcms.org. And I think that's how we should handle it.
Okay.
That's what Robert was going to say.
Good job, Robert. So what we were just talking about the fact that so the people are subscribing not to Send in Blue, but somewhere else. Where when people subscribe,
Mailjet, I think.
that's Mailjet. Okay.
Yeah.
So Mailjet is where we have the most recent subscriptions, and then you just merged that entire list into Send in Blue, right?
Yeah.
Well, presumably a number of people have opted out of Send in Blue, so we don't want to.
Both systems have a opt out that the other one respects. So like every time I go to import people from Mailjet into Send in Blue, if somebody's opted out, Mailjet will be, or Send in Blue will be like, nope, not importing them. So I don't think we're accidentally emailing people who are.
No, right. But I want to avoid that when we move to Civi CRM. And I'm
Yeah.
wondering if that means that we have to first import everybody into Send in Blue and then export only the people, or if
I think
the
we should-
information is backwards. Does Send in Blue tell Mailjet about people that have opted out?
No, because we don't do anything with Mailjet. We don't use it to send any messages. So it's just sort of an import tool because we couldn't get a Send in Blue sign up form.
So I think then the process would be is that, we pick the day, we import all of the new people into Send in Blue. And then I assume we could just export just the people that haven't opted out.
I think it would be good if we imported everybody and recorded that don't send me email status.
Okay.
So that way, if they end up like creating an account on backdropcms.org, we already know that they've said don't send me any emails and they don't have to opt out again in the future. So we're just sort of like retaining that no answer from them for future reference.
I'm in favor of that. I wasn't sure if that would be easy or not, but if it's
I think
not
it's just
hard-
a column in most mailing systems. MailChimp was the same way. There's just a setting for like a do not mail option. And yeah, I think it's a requirement now for email services to have that. So we just need to make sure we figure out where it is, map it appropriately.
And if we import, when we import from Send in Blue, if somebody does have an account already, is it going to figure that out based on what? Based on email address?
Yeah, we can define what its matching criteria is. I think we should use email address because those are unique for people usually. But you can also map on like first, last, if you wanted to make sure one person didn't use a different email address for their, Send in Blue versus one for their backdropcms.org account. I don't think we're going to get it right 100% either way. So yeah, I think maybe start with the email address and see what we end up with. Adjust as needed.
That all makes sense.
There's also a really neat like dedupe feature in Civi CRM. So if we can just get them all in as duplicates, then later on, if we figure out some way to like clean up the thing, you can set up a rule that's like automatically dedupe based on the following, and it'll merge those records into one.
Have you been practicing Civi CRM, Jen? You suddenly seem like an expert.
I'm not an expert. I have one website that's running Civi CRM for event registration and membership, and I've been getting a lot of help from Laren. So I'm learning. There's definitely things where I'm like, how do I do this? He's like, oh, Civi CRM has a feature for that. I was like, oh, yeah.
So the other thing we were talking about right before you got here, Jen, I think was what the lists would be, or the groups that we wanted to start out with. And I submitted really simple, like list of 5 or 6 that I thought was basic, like the newsletter, event updates. And then I thought that we should have something like either a subset of volunteer groups that would be like design. So contribution core, contribution contrib, contribution design, contribution outreach. Those were the 4 I thought of.
What do we do with those? Is this for email lists in the
this is
future?
to be able to send messages to groups of people.
Okay, yeah,
which is something that I'm looking forward to doing. And Robert and I talked about the fact that, like, if we wanted to send to everybody, all people who offered to contribute, that we can do 4 groups and it will deduplicate them. So if somebody's in all 4, they'll still only get 1. So I think the reason I brought that up is there something else? I think Robert's starting to experiment with this, and he's looking for what would the groups be that we need right off the bat. Those were the ones I came up with. Does anybody think of anything else that's missing for me?
I mean, that security mailing list
Security,
would be
yes.
one.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, I feel like we are going to find more stuff in the
Yeah.
future, and we can probably add it as we
Yeah.
run into it. Yeah. Just don't have to get it
Sure.
right. But yeah, I think that's enough for
Okay.
initially
Yeah.
anyway.
Okay, good. So I think that's the list I submitted, Robert, except for adding the security. So we'll see if anybody else has any comments. Okay, anything else you need from us right now, Robert? Other than to get in and test it?
Yeah, let's see. So to test mail things, we'll need to configure basically
SendGrid.
configure SendGrid to notify and I guess that's going to be domain dependent. I mean, if we configure SendGrid to notify the data site, then we'll have to change that when we actually install City on the data site.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think that we might have an issue with the beta site being password protected. Is it password protected now? No. Maybe we won't have an issue.
you mean not beta site not accessible?
Yeah. Can anyone just go see it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. And then we won't have a problem. Yeah. I ran into this once before because the other site I was working on did have a beta site that was password protected, and we couldn't get the SendGrid notifications working because the SendGrid's like, I can't see the site. But that's fine. This will be easier. Yeah, that's great. And then there's like some nice to have things too, like hooking our PayPal forms up through Civi CRM web form. And that would allow us to like put the registration form with PayPal payment on Active Events site, which could be fun. But again, none of this is necessary for launch, just sort of things I'm getting excited about.
Are the SendGrid credentials in 1Password?
Yeah.
Can I use them? May I
Yes.
use them?
Yes. I think there might. SendGrid is weird about 2-factor. Like, I think it requires a phone number or that like Authy app or something. And so you might not be able to get the code using 1Password. But if that's a problem, let me know and I can either forward you the code, which you're not supposed to ever do, or change it to your phone number for a while, and then we can put it back when you're done.
I tinkered a little with SendGrid, my own site, so I think I remember how to set things up.
Okay.
Quick question, Robert. So I'm in right now in the beta site, and do we have any like contacts or numbers set up yet, or is that? I'm trying to find like so I can experiment with like what I can control.
Yeah, if you like click on the Civi CRM,
Yep.
Civi CRM menu in the admin bar.
Yep, I got it.
And then just do a search for find contacts and don't enter anything, and you'll see we've got 5,909 contacts.
Yeah, Civi CRM is weird in that it doesn't show you anything until you run a search,
Yes,
which
now
is
I
the
recall,
opposite of.
right, most other platforms. Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems to me like, somebody's told me that before, but so where do I do this find a person though? Do I go to the contact reports? No.
there should be a contact search in the like top left of the Civi CRM specific.
Yeah, if you click on Civi CRM, a secondary admin bar
Yeah.
shows
I got it. Oh,
Okay.
just under search. It's under the
search,
search.
yeah.
Yep.
First
Yeah.
item, find contacts.
Sure. Okay. Got it. So look at that. I searched for Jen. I got a whole bunch of Jenkins and Jennies and Jennifer. Okay, that's what I needed. Thank you. I'll play a little more.
Okay.
Okay. Let's end this meeting. Nate is here for the next meeting. And
Thank you,
I think
Robert,
we
for all your work
covered
on that.
everything we did. Yeah. This is exciting to be so close. I will really try to be more helpful than I've been. Thank you. Okay, bye everybody. We're going to end this meeting and get ready for the next one. Oh.